All right, hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast. I am your co-host, Juan Martinez. And over here to my left or my right, I'll never figure it out. It's the man,
I'm
the
Jacques
myth, the legend. It's
I
Jacques
don't know if that's true. Nothing, no legend, myth, or just the man. I look really dark. Hold on, I'll change my lights.
Okay, we are off to a fantastic start here. Very, very well prepared here on the podcast. As you can see, it's not like we didn't just record a hard pass earlier where the lighting, everything was set up properly. And now I'm here vamping as Jacques adjusts the lighting.
That feels better. I felt like I was in a dark room. It was like a change the tone of the podcast. Made it feel,
okay.
Yeah, made it feel
Everything's better.
Dark.
Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah.
Are we good?
It's kind of. I still would adjust it more, but
would you say that's a reflection of your current mood right now, Jacques?
A little bit. I am. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
The people have made a choice.
Yeah, it's a
Whether
choice
that's
that
the
we
right
don't.
choice or not, we will have to see.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a choice that we agree with at the moment, but it is what it is. People have made their choice, and we're just gonna, do what we do here, and just kind of, brush it off as much as we can, and live our lives, and answer group threads with like, hey, yo, just chill.
Right.
I always thought you grew up thinking like, oh, all the old problems, those are old problems. They're gonna go away. We're just gonna deal with new ones. But the more you grow, the more you kind of just go through life. You're like, no, the old problems don't go away. They just keep adding on to the new ones. And hopefully that's a lesson that everybody learns, really. Either side you're on. It's like no win is permanent. No loss is permanent.
Yeah, let's just hope for 4 years of greatness.
Greatness. Good times, everybody. All right, moving on to the show, Jacques.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the show, I just want to announce that I am now once again a proud holder of a Disneyland Magic Key annual pass. They're actually available yesterday, and they went on sale, and it's been a pain to try to get a Disneyland annual pass. And I have to get it for family reasons, right? Like for a while there, they were actually difficult to get because you have all of these Disney adults who don't have kids and just like to go to the park and kind of just, do what they do, become like Disney influencers and post their videos, take selfies with the characters and all that stuff. And of course you have the regular families who buy the annual pass, and the demand for them has been huge over the past post-pandemic era.
Are you a Disney adult?
Nope. You know why I have to go to Disneyland all the time.
I'm just asking because you're an adult and you go to Disney.
It's for reasons that I prefer not to share with anybody. You know why, but we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the time you went to Disneyland?
I mean, I enjoyed the place.
But the thing that happened while you're at Disneyland?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what we're talking about. All right, let's hear
I
this.
do. I do. All
right, so
you're talking about how I had a lot of fun and the food wasn't very good.
Oh,
which was
right.
very
You
disappointing.
did say that. I remember, was it several months ago, you were at Disneyland and you called me up and asked me recommendations or what to do at the park and all that stuff.
Yes.
And then while you were on the phone, I did kind of make a joke that, hey, what's going to happen if someone comes up to you and is like, oh, hey, Jacques Slade, sneaker guy, I love your work and all that stuff. And you said, no, that's not going to happen. That's absolutely not going to happen.
Rightly so, because there's no reason for that to happen. I'm not famous or anything. Right.
But guess what happened? While I was talking to you on the phone, someone did come up to you and said, Jacques Slade, hey, can I get a selfie or something? And I just have to say that was mana to the soul.
Unfortunate. I think that's what you wanted to say. It's unfortunate.
No,
it was an unfortunate.
What do you mean it's unfortunate?
It's
the
an
fan
unfortunate.
Was fortunate. The fan was fortunate.
Amazing for the gentleman and his family, but it's just a very untimely, I'll say, occurrence of events.
It was a perfect timing for me because as you know, I think I've shared it before on the podcast. I think when Nick was actually on the show, we talked about our stories of what it's like when we're hanging out with you in public. And I'm not gonna say it happens all the time. It would be unfair for me to say it happens all the time when we're hanging out. But it does happen from time to time when we are out and about. Somebody will come up to you and say, "Big fan, love your work. I've been watching you since I was a kid," which, you know, makes you feel old a little bit. But, you know, and they want to take a picture. Maybe they want something signed. I've never actually seen the autograph part, but the selfies I have definitely seen. And you get your well-deserved ribbing after the fact. Yes.
I don't know if it's called a ribbing. It's fodder for people that like to make fun of me, is what that is.
I don't think it's made fun of you, man. I think it's actually pretty cool that people, you know, appreciate what you have done. The people in the sneaker community have appreciated what you have done through the years. And I think it's great that people come up to you and say, "Hey, man, love your work." I don't wish that upon me.
Right. Okay. All right.
I'll be honest.
I'm going to take that as a Juan compliment.
It's happened once. It only ever happened to me once, and I was like, "Ooh, this is embarrassing." When I was still working, when it happened at Kicks on Fire, it was in Vegas, and it happened to me once, and I was like, "Ooh, oh boy, this is awkward for me because I don't know how to react. I don't know how to say." I'm like, "Thanks." So
it's because it's because we are the same one.
No, we are not. You are on a different level.
It's because we are the same.
Different level. There's levels to this.
I'm glad you.
This is you. This is you. For people who are watching the video right now, greatly appreciate it. But this is where Jacques is, and this is me. You can't even see me anymore. It's like very John Cena. Like, you can't see me.
All right. Let's get on with the show. This is just too far. Now we're trying
to lighten the mood. Just trying to lighten the mood. You know, stuff.
Yeah. Lighten the mood. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
By making jokes. Anyway, so moving on to the actual part of the show, Jacques. We teased it during the recording of Hard Pass. We talked about Saquon Barkley and running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. He had this amazing move that honestly I've never seen before. I was like, you think you've seen everything, right? We have gotten to this point. We rewatch sports all the time. We've seen highlights of all different kinds and everything, but what Saquon Barkley did when he did that spin move and did a reverse huddle, I was like, what was that? Because here's the thing, I saw it. I saw I don't know if it was a tweet or like a thing that said Barkley does reverse huddle, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
I had no idea what that meant until I actually saw it, and I was like, oh, now I get it. But also, I'm still just shocked and amazed at how just the foresight, just like the instinct, because that's not something you plan. That's just something he did on pure instinct. And just a wild play, man. Just like it gave me the same feeling that I had when I first watched NFL highlights of Barry Sanders, because he was such an amazing running back. Just did these moves that you just can't fathom. You can't imagine until you actually see it in person. And Barkley kind of gave me that same feeling, and it was just wild stuff, man. I was just amazed by it.
Yeah, I was blown away by it as well. And you kind of go through your memory and be like, have I ever seen something like that? Because we've seen people jump over people before.
Yes.
It's not. It's the reverse that made it the most impressive. It's okay, we've seen people jump. Cool. Yeah, we've seen that. But the reverse jump is just
yes.
And the funniest part to me, and I think I put it to my Instagram stories, was that no one is naming the guy that he jumped over.
Yeah.
It's
not Mozgov. It's not like a Mozgov. Remember,
it's not like when you get dunked on and they can see oh, he dunked on X.
Yes.
This is just no one's saying anything. Even when the NFL tweeted it, I mean, when they posted the story, or they did an IG reel for it. They just said Saquon Barkley reverse jumps over someone. They didn't even say the guy's name. And I was of all the people that should know this guy's name, the NFL should know this guy's name. And they just called him someone. And I was that's like, I don't. I mean, it's probably better that you don't know his name. To be fair, because you don't want to be known as the guy that Saquon Barkley jumped over, or reverse huddled over, whatever it is called. But at the same time, it's like, y'all can't even acknowledge the name. Like, he's been called someone. Some people are just saying defender. You're just like, what? That's terrible.
Do you think like the social team had like a meeting, like, do we name this guy? Do we put his name out there, or do we want to save him from the embarrassment of
you have to
being called out?
I think it's intentional. I believe it's intentional. They left his name off. Like, that's the benefit of football versus every other sport, where no one can really see your face. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, no one can really see his face, and so they can get away with just saying someone, because in the football field there's 64 people on the field at however many people is 30 people on the field at one time. Generally the name and faces of like 3 or 4 of those people. Mm-hmm. So in this situation, I think it definitely benefits him that this happened in football, because if this was basketball, like, everybody sees your face. If this was baseball and a runner was, a catcher was trying to tag somebody and the runner turned around and flipped over the catcher or something like that.
Yeah,
it would be, everybody would know exactly who it was. So shout out to whoever, someone. Shout out to someone. Unfortunately.
Well, that someone got jumped over by Saquon, but also the Nike LeBron 4. Yeah, those cleats are now instantly iconic. Like, it's gonna be part of Saquon's, package of highlights forever. And Nike, shout out to them. They capitalized real quick by not only just putting in, the Witness, which is, a legendary campaign early on in LeBron's career, but they flipped it. They reversed it. And it was like, oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Nike. Yeah. Very clever of you. So whoever did the copywriting on that one, kudos to you. We're absolutely brilliant, and to turn it around so quickly, just spot on. As soon as I saw that. Yeah, like the speed of that was very like, oh, love it. I love it when like they just have a moment of inspiration and they just like say, let's put it out there right now, just to like, capture the moment, instead of like, waiting for X months and then drop a commercial or something like that. Obviously there's something to that, you get to like really think about some things, but there's something about like capturing the moment as it, just happened. And, that ends up sometimes being more memorable than a very well thought out, very intricate commercial that takes like, X amount of days, months, weeks to like, to make. But the thing that I wanted to talk about though, about that, Jacques, was like, is that the most iconic moment of the LeBron 4? Which is weird because it's not on the basketball court, right? Like,
yeah.
The way I think about it is like the LeBron 4 was, it was very different from like the LeBrons that had come out. It had the foamposite shell. So it was distinctive, but I don't know that it really stood out in that era of like, LeBron's. Like, I mean, it was definitely like a different looking sneaker, but I don't think like people look back on it fondly as much as they do like other certain LeBrons. Like, it's definitely a standout, but I don't think it's like in the upper echelon, I would say. But seeing Saquon and, LeBron, I'm sure had like a ton of highlights doing stuff in the LeBron 4, but there's really none that come to mind other than right now what Saquon just did. And it's weird to me that
it wasn't a like when in the LeBron 4 there was no like LeBron moments in the LeBron 4. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing happened that year in his career that, at least not to my recollection, nothing happened in that year that comes to mind or that stands out in like LeBron's legacy. Like there's nothing like legacy building that happened within that year. It was kind of just like it wasn't his first year. He didn't win, a championship. So it was just like,
I think that was
like
the year.
Another year.
I think that may have been the year they made the finals, but I don't remember. Like LeBron famously did not wear the LeBron, whatever the signature LeBron was during the finals when they first made it, like, with the Cavs. He was wearing the Soldiers. So automatically there, you don't even have a moment in the LeBron 4s. You have a moment in the Soldiers. but you don't have it with like the LeBron 4. So that's even like a small knock on it. And but now
Yeah.
with this Barkley thing, this thing's gonna live on forever just because of like just the uniqueness of it. Like sometimes, we see highlights and they're like people go nuts for it, but like, you forget about it the following week, which is crazy because just a couple of days before, or was it, I don't know if it was the same day, like that receiver for the Jets, he had that Jumpman catch. But
Yeah.
and it had a moment. It definitely had a moment. Adidas even like capitalized it on to a certain degree too. But it's already been overshadowed by what Saquon did.
By what
Like,
Saquon did. Yeah.
yeah, so
It's an unfortunate week to have a dope highlight when
yeah.
there's a crazy highlight. There's like the dope and then there's like an incredible highlight. Yeah, I think the thing with the fours though is like they didn't have a moment that was like that like transcended everything else kind of happening that day.
Yeah.
And what Saquon did in them, it was just one of those moments. It's like in the Super Bowl when the guy caught the ball on the helmet, or
Yes.
when Vince Carter jumped over the French dude. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's like it was just one of those rare sports moments that will live on forever kind of thing. And so it's hard to and LeBron didn't have that kind of moment in his own shoe. So
Right.
Saquon is now like the bearer of the LeBron 4 kind of in a sense, as far as like sports moments go.
Exactly. And that's interesting to me because like this isn't the first time we've seen the LeBron 4 on the gridiron. Like the LeBron
Right.
4 cleats have been like on football players for at least like a year or two. Like I remember Caleb Williams, who was the number 1 overall pick this year, he was wearing LeBron 4 cleats for USC. And it's kind of like got into, thinking, and then we put it on the script. It was like, there's something about basketball shoes that translate to other sports. And it doesn't seem like it works the other way around, right? Like there's so many players right now in the NFL wearing Jordan 1 cleats. And then you see the top guys like Jalen Hurts, Dak, they wear like 3s or 4s or something like that. And then, we got like all sorts of NFL players wearing like Jordan 1s, Travis Scott's on their tunnel walks, which is funny, right? Because it originated really in the NBA and in the WNBA, like, the tunnel walks, everybody was like, dressed out, getting their fit off.
Yeah.
But now we're even seeing it in the NFL. But they're following the NBA guys, the WNBA girls, and they're rocking like, the sneakers that are seen on the court or, retros. And the same thing with golf. Like you see, there's golfers. There's been the explosion of like, the Jordan retros in golf. You've got baseball players like Mookie Betts in cleats, Jordan 11s, Jordan 1s. And, we talked about it too. Like in wrestling, there's like a lot of wrestlers who wear Jordan 1s. And then we talked about like Bronson Reed, who even shouted you out on a tweet, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And he was rocking like the black toe reimagined, which isn't even coming out until next year. He got
until next year, yeah.
Which is funny because like I don't know if he has like a connected Jordan brand or he got a hands on an early pair, but I was like, oh, but just
he's Bronson Reed, so he was gonna get he's gonna get pairs early.
Yeah, he's gonna look like, hey, brother.
Yeah,
I would like a pair of these.
Basically.
But yeah, I just wanted to just highlight that there is something about basketball sneakers, and I'm not even talking about just Jordan retros because we see Kobe's, like the Kobe 6 in particular in baseball and football. But there is something about the look, the shape, the form of like basketball sneakers that translate to just about everything. But for some reason, it just doesn't work the other way around. Let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what is it about?
Yeah, I think when I think about it, to me, it's because of the lifestyle element of basketball sneakers. I think a lot of the sneakers that we're talking about have been able to be worn in a lifestyle element, and that's why they're being and these athletes in other sports look at them as like, oh man, I would love to wear these as a cleats, something that they could wear as a lifestyle. I don't think they look at these and be like, oh, I want to wear these as performance shoes on the gridiron or on the diamond. It's more of like, these look dope just as regular shoes, and I want to wear them now on in my sport as in a performance version of that. Like that's what happened with golf. People love the Air Jordan 1 and was like, this is an easy conversion to a golf shoe that still keeps the DNA and the feel of the Jordan 1. So that's why you see everyone and their mother wearing Jordan 1s now on the golf course. And like Travis Scott Jordan golf shoes have basically become the country club golf shoe of choice. Like
really, you've seen it. Like I haven't been able to go out to like, you know, as often as you have, but you've started to notice it more and more.
Oh my gosh, when I go to like country clubs and play, you can definitely see a heavy Jordan 1 Travis Scott golf shoe presence. And I think it's the same thing with football. Like people see these basketball sneakers that had life off the court as well, and they really like them, and now they're being translated to performance shoes for them to wear on the gridiron, and it adds some personality, it adds some character. It doesn't feel like the same old thing that everybody else is wearing, so it feels like they can kind of separate themselves. And then basketball shoes are the only ones that have a life off of their performance space. You know, baseball shoes, because cleats, you can't really wear them off the field. Same thing with soccer boots or with football cleats. Like I can't ever recall a cleated shoe making the transition to a lifestyle shoe that people are like, oh, I want to rock these off the course. I mean, maybe if you want to say like the Samba or maybe like the Stan Smith, maybe those count as like working or but otherwise. But you know, those aren't even those aren't even cleated, so I can't even say that. I think that's where all the that's why those guys are so apt to wear those, because it gives them that lifestyle element that they can't get with just wearing normal cleats.
Right. I mean, the only example that I can think of right away of like a shoe that came from a different sport, like, you know, like a football, like our Deion Sanders, like Diamond Turfs. They haven't been. It's not like you see NBA players wearing them, but like recently LeBron like did the LeBron 21, but he did it in the shape like he did an overlay of like the Diamond Turf, like the DT 96, and even that's just it's such a rare example. But the other thing I wanted to like talk about was like the proliferation of these Jordans, you know, in these different sports, and yet in the sneaker community, it seems like we're over Jordan 1s, right? Like, you know, people like, you know, the prices have dropped. People are not really looking for them as much as they used to. And yet it's so popular in football. It's like you said, it's so popular in golf, in baseball, in wrestling. It's weird because like the sneaker community has just kind of gotten over it. They're moving on to like Sambas or Asics or New Balance. And yet so far, like in the populace, Jordan 1s still are the it shoe, it seems like.
Yeah.
So is this like a matter of like the sneaker community is just like 10 steps ahead of the curve? Or do we feel, and also do we feel like in a couple of years, once, you know, these athletes kind of get, I don't know, I don't want to say tired of like the Jordan 1s, do we see them like wear New Balances or Asics or something like that? Do we feel like sneaker community is just kind of like moving, they're so far ahead right now that like people are kind of like, oh, you know, I'm not down with that yet, but like in a couple of years time, are we going to see that shift as well? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the challenge with doing that, I mean, I guess obviously, you know, the challenge with football is that, you know, the brands have to pay to have their logo there.
Yes.
So for football, it's a little bit harder. Baseball, I'm not sure if the rules are the same or if they're similar. But I would imagine that in baseball, people will be able to, you know, they'll do that once they if they find something that they like. It's just a matter of just finding something that, you know, that's integrated enough into pop culture that people recognize it. And there's not a lot of Asics or Solomons or Ons or Hokas that have that kind of like instant recognizability and also have that or that have that kind of clout that a lot of the Jordan 1s and the Kobe's and stuff like that have. You know, there's a certain demographic that I think you're trying to reach when you make that choice to wear like a basketball shoe and convert it to a football or baseball cleat. And I don't know if that audience really cares if you put on some Hokas or On Running.
Yeah, they don't
not that On's bad. They have that 3D printed shoe that I really want to see. I really want to see that 3D printed.
Oh, I haven't even seen that. Well, okay, cool. Yeah, you're right. Like they still haven't reached that point yet. But who knows? Maybe like in several years, there's like they make their own iconic moments. Like
Yeah.
somebody's wearing like any like you're right. Like we might not see Asics on an NFL field because they do like the NFL asks to pay the brands to pay for the right to be featured. It's not like in other sports. Like maybe a baseball player. I think like Mizuno, Asics, and all that stuff is totally fine because I think there's like players who are sponsored by them. But who knows?
Mm-hmm.
They could have their own iconic moments in those shoes, and maybe that's what kickstarts it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And maybe, and now that I think another idea, I guess another, angle at this is, Jordans have the inherent greatness of Jordan involved in the Jumpman logo. LeBrons have the inherent greatness of being LeBron's shoe, one of the greatest athletes, basketball players to ever play the game. With Kobe's, you have, again, one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. So you have that inherent history and lore around those shoes. And you don't really have that sort of history and lore around a lot of other sneakers. There's very few sneakers that have the LeBron, Kobe, Jordan sort of folklore, cultural cachet around them. And I think that makes a big difference as well.
Right. Well, speaking of that, like, speaking of Jordans kind of making their way into other facets of like, sport or lifestyle or whatever, Jordans are coming to Fortnite. And it's not going to be like before where you had like a specific character that was wearing Jordans. No, now Fortnite has introduced a new thing. They're calling it kicks. And now you're going to be able to outfit characters in Jordans. But you also have like the goofy like Fortnite shoes, like Fortnite design shoes that are like very much like part of like their playful style and everything. But now you're going to be able to outfit like any character, almost any character. Like I guess they're saying like as much as 95% of 95%, like the total of the total available skins in Fortnite will eventually be able to wear Jordans, which is like, I wonder though, like what's that 5% that's not going to be allowed? Obviously, there's a couple obvious ones, like Shaq is a Reebok guy, so I doubt they're going to allow something like that to happen. But I was going to be curious to see what that 5% is. But I just think it's wild and very cool to see like Jordans make their way into gaming in this way and not like in the initial metaverse kind of like fantasy of like bringing them into other games. Like, I remember there was like this dream of like, all the crypto bros and all that, the NFT guys, and they were like, oh, you're going to be able to bring your stuff into all of these different games. And it's like, nah, man, like, I don't want to see like your, those board monkeys or something. I don't want to see that like in my next, Hideo Kojima game. I don't want to see that in Final Fantasy. I don't want to see that stuff. But in Fortnite, where anything goes, I'm all for that. I'm just going to be curious to see like what the licensing things, like, are we going to be able to see like Han Solo wear Jordans? Or are we going to see like, the Marvel characters, the DC characters, the wrestlers, or, any other athletes, any public figure, like Ariana Grande is in Fortnite. Are you going to be able to like, put her in Jordans? I don't know if she has like a sneaker deal with anybody. Like maybe she does. And who knows if that's going to be a conflict of interest. I just wonder like how that's all going to integrate in time. And, this opens the door for like other brands too. Like, your Adidas, your Asics, your New Balances to also get into this kind of like space where, there's going to be these kids who are like, oh, I can't buy these Jordans, but at least I can have them in my favorite game. I can have them
in the game, yeah.
And, people are like, cool. Well, I can just buy reps now. But, not everybody does that. Not everybody just, goes out and buys reps. So, like, I think it's cool that, kids who, maybe aren't able to, like, acquire these sneakers can at least have some form of them in their digital life. But also, I'm just here for the mess. I am here for the absolute mess of, like, John Wick wearing Jordans.
Oh, yeah.
Those kinds of things, right? I just wonder how it's going to translate. And then there's the big whole Lego integration in Fortnite. And I wonder if they're going to make like brick, what if that's another step in the Lego Nike partnership, right? What if that's like the step that we're not looking at? And so not only can you put them in the regular base game in all those different modes, you can also put them in the Lego Fortnite. And you're going to have like these bricked versions, these brick versions with like Jordan 1s or sneakers and all that stuff. So I just think it's cool. I just think it's great for like gaming in general, and it's not the original vision as it was before, which I just shake my head at. I was like, get out of here with that stuff. But anyways, yeah.
No, I think it's a great move on Nike's part to get their sneakers in there. Obviously, they're trying to reach a new audience and a younger audience, and Fortnite is obviously one of the best ways to do that right now. The kids still love to play that game, and so it makes sense for them to take this angle. Obviously, I feel like I wish it would have happened sooner, like a lot, like years ago.
I mean, they tried
like
with Roblox. Remember the whole Roblox thing, and they kind of abandoned that already.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe this, will have a longer roadmap, and maybe because they did with Roblox first, that it kind of prevented them from doing it with Fortnite. So now maybe this opens up that door for them. And I wonder, is Epic paying for Nike to be in the game? Is Nike paying to be in the game? Is it a even swap of services because Lego's already in the game? So It'll be interesting to see. Once, I'm sure that information will come out at some point, but it's interesting to to see how that kind of stacks up. I think it's a great move for Nike. It puts them in a great position overall, and allows kids to have a little bit more fun and more personality with Fortnite, especially the kids that are a little more athletic. I'm not sure, like the more like video game centric kids, they will care as much, but
yeah.
I know the kids that play games kind of tangentially as part of like, I want something to do, but I'm also playing sports. I think for them, it'll probably be a little more interesting.
I think I'm going to be curious to see if Nike does what I hope they do, which is like, because these are not going to be, free. I'm assuming that, people are going to have to pay for like, a Jordan 1 or a Jordan 11. I wonder if Nike, hopefully they do it. When you buy a sneaker, they just include a code. They include a code that you can like, cool. Have it in the game. Like, I wonder if Nike will think to actually do something like that to really even, get them into the ecosystem. Like, say you buy.
I'm going to say they're not going to.
They like their money.
It's especially if, because it's a revenue source. If they're already getting people to pay for those certain shoes to be in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. Maybe the way that they do it is, you have to pay to get the shoe, but if you buy the shoe, it comes with a code so you can get that colorway.
Sure. That's also one way to do it. I think that would actually work. Like, yeah. So say like you buy the Kobe 5 skin, the shoe skin in Fortnite, but then you also get like the new colorway or like a different colorway, and you get that code for whatever colorway that is, and then you can add it to the game as well. So yeah, I think that could be something that could also
that's the way
work
I
as
would
well.
see it. I think that's the way it would work. It was you can wear the shoe, you can get the basic shoe in the game, but if you buy the shoe, it would be really cool.
It's
if
an
it
add-on
came with a code.
It's like an add-on
that you can update the colorway.
Yeah, here I am trying to like make Nike look good, like hey, be generous or something like that. But you're like, nah, capitalism, baby. We got to make that money.
No, it's not. It's not that. I just think
I see what you're saying. Though I do understand.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying though. But yeah, I think. No, I just thought it was a really neat idea. This is like the platform it's, it'll have its ebbs and flows of like popularity and everything, but it's going to be like World of Warcraft, which is a game that came out in 2002, 2004, and it's still going strong. Like Fortnite is going to be that next thing that people are just going to play, and not even necessarily like to go out there and win or whatever, quote, get your, your winner chicken dinner, or wait, no, that's Battlegrounds. Your victory royale. People are just doing that just to hang out, like, to talk with their friends and everything. It's not even just about like, trying to like dominate or win or something. It's just like, it's just the thing that kids do when they can't leave the house. So yeah, and if this can be like an extension of their personality, their style and everything, I think more power to them. So cool.
Yeah, more power to them. And Nike's finding their way. I think the digital space, they've tried to do things in the digital space a couple of different times, from the Fuel Band and the shoe, what were the shoes called? The
pluses, the
plus, the Nike Plus stuff,
the Hyperdunk Plus and all that stuff. Yeah,
Hyperdunk Plus. They've been trying to find their way, I think, in the digital space.
Yeah,
and it hasn't worked out in their favor yet, but I think eventually they'll find something that's going to stick, and maybe this is the angle that they need to approach it now come from, as opposed to being like the creator of it, like they integrate into other things and allow that to be their pathway into the digital space. So it'll be interesting to see how this works and how popular or unpopular this becomes, and hopefully it allows them, a runway to be more active in the digital space, because that's where a lot of things are going.
Jacques, do you still have fuel bands?
I do. I think I have like 3 of them somewhere. I have a bag with like 3 of them in there. I should charge one up to see if it's
to
still
see
works.
what happens. See what happens.
Yeah.
Right? The good old days when you just got fuel band when we were working in the blog era, and fuel bands just showed up and you just gave them away to your friends or your family. Like, oh hey, here you go, because I have my own.
Yep.
That was definitely like a time. But anyways, moving on, like we're gonna keep it like in the digital world though. Well, the video game space, Jacques. The Nintendo Switch 2 is supposed to come out next year. It's a big deal. People are like, very hyped for it. It's been a very long time. It's been long awaited. People thought it was gonna come this year. People thought it was gonna come last year. But it seems like 2025 is going to be the time when the Switch 2 actually drops. But the big news that came out this week is that it's going to be backwards compatible. And that was a huge sigh of relief for a lot of people who have basically built up a huge library for the Nintendo Switch, because it's just everybody's console, man. Like, there's so many games for it. People have just like built up a huge library, whether it's through cartridges or their digital library. Yeah. And it was welcome news for like the community, and so to be able to have this, all of this to transfer over, and hopefully like with the improved horsepower of the Switch 2, like some of these games will maybe run better or look better, because let's be honest, the Switch 1 is just, it's long in the tooth. A lot of newer games that are coming out for it are just chugging, desperately holding on, trying to work. Like if you still have a launch Switch 1 that came out in 2017, it probably sounds like a car at this point, like a car that's on his last legs. It's just like, oh, come on. Like, you can still play Metroid. You can still play Metroid. Nintendo has always been like hit or miss with that stuff, because they kind of know that you'll buy the same stuff over again. Like their fan base is very much conditioned to be like, oh, you bought this game in the previous generation. Well, we're moving on to the new generation. If you want to play it again, we're going to give you like the HD version or the remixed version or something like that, and you'll pay another $50, $60. So it's just one of those things that I'm just glad is like it's consumer friendly. Like they're actually just acknowledging that, hey, we have this huge base. Like I think I read in the Verge article, the total number of units, like software sold by the Switch, the original Switch, is 1.36 billion games.
Wow.
That's a lot. And to just abandon that would just be like a supreme shame on Nintendo's part.
Yeah, it's almost a smack in the face. And I think digital goods have, and no, I shouldn't say digital goods. I think the audience has matured enough where that Nintendo doing something like that is less acceptable. I think in the past, the broader audience may not have necessarily had the wherewithal to say something, but I think now Nintendo understands that the audience has matured enough and it's widened enough that in order for them to do that, that it would the backlash would be great. It would be huge. I think it would be a huge slap if they did something like that. Yeah. And it would, and I don't think they want that sort of press, especially with 1.6 billion. A good majority of those people have bought at least 2 or 3 games themselves, and I think that would cause such a stir that it would make it difficult for Nintendo to pull something like that. Now, say they do the Switch 2 5 years from now, that might be a different story. Just because things are so much older now, but because it still feels so fresh, the Switch still kind of feels fresh, especially for those that aren't like gaming people, so to speak, that I think wouldn't go very well for Nintendo.
Yeah, it would. Like, it always reminds me of like the old days, like with your music library. It would be like if you could, like, if you got a new iPhone or you got like a new, like, back in the days, like an iPod, it would be like saying like, oh, your MP3s from like your first gen iPod wouldn't be able to transfer over to your second or third gen iPod, right? Like, I'm sure there were probably people back then who thought that way. Like, wait, my thing's not gonna be able to transfer over, but there's definitely like, as the community has aged and like grown up, getting used to the fact that like, my stuff just transfers over. It shouldn't be a problem anymore. So that's why, like, I'm just glad like Nintendo has finally had like, I'm not gonna say foresight. This is kind of just like giving them like the thank you for doing the bare minimum, guys.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, the fact
I mean, and also,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that being like hearing you say like the community for gaming has aged as well. So like the older generation that still plays video games that bought Switches, they're gonna be like, I'm not gonna buy these games again. I'll just play them on my old system. Like I think they've gotten old enough where they don't feel like they need to get the new thing in order to play their games, and so that probably plays into the equation as well.
Right. I mean, the Switch One, there's still so many out there, and they're actually still selling not as well as they used to, obviously, because there's still like there are people already just anticipating the Switch 2 is like on the way, but there's still like a general audience that just buys the Switch now, kind of like it's almost like an impulse buy, because I think they're like I think like the lowest price version is like 200 or 150. So for some people, that's a pair of sneakers.
Yeah.
So,
they're super cheap now.
Yeah, you can just it's just one of those like impulse buys, like you can hand it off to your kids or something, and the younger kids are not going to have any sense of like this is not like the top of the line like model. As long as they can play Mario Kart, as long as they can play like the basics, that's all you really need. So, but for those of us who are like knee deep in it, who want to play like the latest, the best, and all that stuff, I just think it's great. I notice I'm not even talking about. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, has the Switch ever been like the console you go to when you want to play the latest and greatest, though?
Well, the Nintendo produced ones, because you can't get it anywhere else. But if you're looking for like latest, greatest, and best, no, you go to your Xbox or your PlayStation. But notice I'm not even talking about the PS5 Pro, which came out this week, and I have zero intention of buying it because my PlayStation 5 is perfectly adequate. Like, for $700,
everything I've read about it says basically the same thing. Like, oh yes, it's great. It's a nice. I shouldn't say a nice bump. It's a bump. But it's nothing that's going to dramatically change the way you play or enjoy your system. And I think that's probably the fault.
Yeah. I mean, if I did not have a PlayStation 5 right now, I probably would have gotten the PS5 Pro. But because I have a PlayStation 5, and to be quite honest, I play a lot of PS4 games on it still to this day. And, they load better. I'm not going to say they look better, but they definitely load faster in some cases because of like the SSD. Like, I'm enjoying like stuff from like that stuff came out like a decade ago. Because to me, the thing that really disappointed me about the PS4 and like the Xbox One generation, they loaded so slow. Like, the hard drive was just chugging along. And then we got to this generation of the PS5 and the Series X. They had the SSDs, and like games were loading so much quicker, and it energized me to actually go back to these older games. And the PS5 is just an increment. The Pro is going to be like, well, I don't know if it's like a PlayStation 5.5, because these Pro consoles, that's what they're supposed to be, is like a 0.5.
A 0.5,
yeah. So, but yeah, like between the price and the fact that I'm not really encountering any problems so far with the PS5. There's really no reason to upgrade unless I didn't have a PS5 already. So, but
that makes sense. And that's with all the reviews that I've read and some of the videos that I've watched. It's pretty much been very similar to that. Like it's an upgrade, but it's not like a generational upgrade.
Yeah, no.
And unless you have like an 8K TV and you sit a certain amount of feet away from the TV, you're not going to notice it. And then the other thing is that it's like not even all games. It's only games enhanced for the PS5 Pro. Not every single game you play or every PS5 game is going to look better. It's like games that are enhanced for PS5 Pro, and that just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a logical step in my
it's not a good value proposition for anybody who's already has a PS5, right? Like they can't, like, companies right now cannot afford to make PS5 Pro exclusive games because they're going to be like, you know, shutting off like a huge audience, right? Like they're going to be shutting off like the audience that already has a PS5, and there's a huge PS5 base. But if you're going to design a game and you're going to make it so that it's only possible to run on a 5 Pro, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Like you're kind of like,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So we're only ever going to see like PS5 games, and the ones that are going to be like Pro, and they're going to be enhanced for the Pro, but they're never really going to take super full advantage of what the Pro is capable of until towards the end. Like, you know, eventually as we get towards like the actual end of like a console life cycle, we'll see like the PS5 Pro like taken to the max. But then at that point, the PS6 is probably out, because I've heard that their plan is to make this PS5 generation last 10 years, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a PS6 by year 8, you know?
And when did the PS5 come out?
2020.
2020? Okay, so we're about we're halfway through.
We're halfway there. So say they do live up to they do, you know, stand by that, you know, promise of it being a 10-year life cycle. Like by 2030 we get the PS6, God willing we're all still here by then. Elections have consequences, people. But you know, assuming that, you know, we're all here and all that stuff. But like by 2028, it wouldn't surprise me if like the PS6 was already there while they're still supporting the PS5.
Yeah, I'm curious how much better. I guess it's more fidelity. It's probably more of a fidelity thing. I think how much better a PS6 could be, and it's definitely got to be like a fidelity thing. So it'd be interesting to see. We're
gonna need 16K TVs.
Right. people aren't even getting 8K TVs yet. We gotta get to 8K TVs first.
I don't even like. I just got an OLED this year. I just got my OLED, and like it looks great. The 120 hertz, all that good stuff, and I'm like, yo, we're already doing 8Ks. I saw like an article where like, oh, the price for like 96-inch TVs are dropping, and I'm like, oh, are they? And then I see how much they are. I'm like, man, what do you mean they're dropping in price?
That's not a drop. That's not a drop.
They're still obnoxious. And also, I don't think they're like OLEDs. They're just like, they're like huge 96-inch TVs, but they're like LCDs. So it's not like they're the top of the line. You know, so it's like, oh yeah, I have this big old TV, but it's not like the best possible like experience though. It's like, you just have a big TV. Like sometimes you know, when you go to like a friend's house or something and you see like they have like the biggest TV, like an 80 something, and you're like, yeah, but those are like plasmas or LCDs, so it's not like it's not like the fidelity is there. It's not like if you do have like a PS5 Pro, it's not gonna look its best, you know?
Yeah. Yep. There's people in my family that buy those big giant TVs, and I'm like, you probably could have got something better, but you know,
slightly smaller.
I get
smaller.
I get why. Yeah. I understand why you got it, but do you have
like the family who have like the motion smoothing turned on so everything looks like a soap opera?
Yep. You just gotta roll with it. That's how they like it, man. You just gotta roll with it. Roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you go there.
I don't. Yeah, don't pick those battles. I don't pick those battles. Nope.
No, like, absolutely.
Cool. Sure, that's your thing. Got you.
Yeah. Knock it out. You just kind of accept it and you move on.
Yep.
And it's definitely not an allusion to anything else. Anyways, Jacques, moving on to everybody's favorite sneaker segment.
Yeah.
It's Sneaker Mount Rushmore Plus time.
This is gonna be a good one today.
Yes. Today, in honor of Saquon Barkley, we are going to be doing the Nike LeBron 4 Sneaker Mount Rushmore Plus. Apologies to LeBron James.
Apologies to LeBron James.
So today,
sorry, LeBron.
Yes. But because it's a little, you know, because there's not a lot of collabs, there are player exclusives, but because of like the huge swath and because we don't really have time to see if something's an OG or not, we're just gonna do it a little bit different for this week's episode. So we're gonna have still 5 picks for our Rushmore, but what we're gonna do is at least have a 1 cleat minimum because of the popularity of the LeBron cleats. We should at least have 1 cleat for our picks for the Rushmore. So who wants to start? Wait, did I start last week or did you start? I forget.
I can start. I mean,
no. We did the Clark Kent thing last week. So by the way, go check that out. Go check that out in the previous episode. Shout out to DJ Clark Kent. Rest in peace.
Yeah. But I would say for me, the LeBron 4 that I think of the most is the graffiti one. What's it called? Graffiti?
Yes,
graffiti. Like that's the one that like whenever for some reason when I think of the LeBron 4, that's the one that pops into my head first is the graffiti joint.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those iconic ones. Was it like an all-star pair or something? Or well, it was around that time.
Yeah, it was around that time.
Yeah. Cool. So
I don't know if that's a PE or what, but that's the one that kind of pops into my head first.
Like I said, it's very and the information for it's not like with Jordans where like there's like specific websites dedicated to like every Jordan colorway or every Jordan something. Like LeBron's is just like a free for all, man, because it was during that era like where it's like the blog era where like it wasn't like as super organized as like it is with Jordans or something like that. So for my pick for the LeBron 4 Rushmore, for my first pick, I'm going to go with the birthday. That's the
birthday.
one that.
Which one is that?
That's the one that's kind of have like it's almost like the hardware classics. Like I don't know. Sometimes I hear it called hardware classics. Sometimes I hear it called birthday, but it's got like a old school
the New York looking one.
Yeah, like or old school Cleveland Cavaliers colors, right? Like that colors. It's like blue and orange. So that is going to be my first pick for the LeBron 4 Rushmore. Yeah,
I think that's a good one.
It's a nice solid colorway. Like, know.
For my next one, I was going with a LeBron 4 eggplant.
Ooh,
especially since like it's all like we're all in the like foam posit era, so that one kind of gets my vote. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, Didn't the eggplant full posits just come out? So, yeah. Yep. That's a good like call back to that. Yeah, it's a good idea too to like integrate like because LeBron was also like a huge Penny fan, and I'm surprised there's not a lot more like foam posit homages with the LeBron 4. But I mean maybe they're starting to do that now. So
yeah,
definitely a good choice with that one. For my next pick for the LeBron 4 Rushmore, I'm going to go with the All-Star. It's the gold pair.
That was gonna be my next one. Got you. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I like that one. Simply because it's gold. It's obnoxious, and there's really nothing more to say to that.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then I guess for my next one, which is obviously I would say the most popular LeBron 4 is the Fruity Pebbles, which is just the most popular LeBron 4 I think of all of them. Which is weird because it looks weird, but it's easily the most popular one out there.
Yeah, definitely. And didn't LeBron just do that? Was it Fruity Pebbles that he put in Bronny's car? Well, he put in Bronny's car for that commercial.
Oh, yeah, for that commercial. Yeah.
So definitely like LeBron has always had those ties with the Fruity Pebbles. So yeah, that's a good pick. So for my next pick for the LeBron 4 Rushmore, I'm going to go with where was that? I'm gonna go with the playoff colorway, which is kind of like a like it's just a solid white pair, but it has like a red collar, but it still has the hits of gold in it. So it's kind of like appropriate for like that Cleveland Cavaliers era, when they were doing like the wine red and like the gold, like with the gold trim and everything. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that one for my LeBron 4 Rushmore.
Okay, then my last one before we pick a cleat would be the I remember back in the day, OSU had a LeBron 4 PE. That was really dope. It was a red and white. Again, I'm not that I'm an OSU fan. I don't want people to think that. It's just not that there's anything wrong with being an OSU fan. I'm just not one. But I do like that red and white, and I thought that one looked really dope. It had the O on the strap, which was dope.
Very cool. Very cool. Keeping it in that direction, actually. I'm going to go with what appears to be, this is actually the first time seeing this. It's a St. Vincent St. Mary's colorway, which is, again, green and gold. Very gold centric Rushmore for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always like that color combination though. I think I have a pair of Zoom Generations, the St. Vincent St. Mary's. So always like that combination of like the green with the gold hits. And I know you're not a big fan of the green.
No, I'm definitely not a fan of the green, but the St. Vincent St. Mary stuff always seems to look nice. So I can't hate on that. And then for our cleats,
Yes.
I'm going back to the well here with the I think there was an eggplant cleat. I don't know if it was a PE or if it was made for someone in particular, but yeah, I remember there was an eggplant PE that looks really clean. I just recently saw it. Oh, Ohio State. There you go. Ohio State wore them against Oregon.
Big Ohio State fan, I see.
Apparently so. I've turned into a Ohio State fan, apparently.
Well, since you're going with that, I actually thought about picking that one though. But since you're going with that, I'm going to go with our star of the show, Saquon Barkley, silver LeBron 4 cleats. Might as well go with that one. But yeah, iconic moment. Something that's just going to live on, I think, just because of like the novelty of that moment, something we just never seen before. And those silver cleats just going to have, it's just always going to be tied to Saquon at this point. Like I said, even more so than LeBron, right?
Yeah. It's the biggest moment that's happened in the LeBron 4. I can't think. I mean, and that's no swipe at LeBron. I just.
Yeah, no.
And maybe I'm just forgetting an audience. Maybe you can let us know. Is there a LeBron 4, a moment for LeBron in the LeBron 4 that I'm missing? That's like transcendent. That's big enough that the wider culture will remember it. And I can't think of anything in my head.
It's almost like you could always picture this Saquon thing being like a silhouette, right? Like you could almost picture it like being on a T-shirt at some point, right? Like the reverse huddle. And then, I mean, Nike, I don't know if that's true. Like I saw like a post, like, Nike might be releasing a T-shirt with this, like the picture of the cleat and like the reverse witness or something like that. So, but I think
really like the reverse witness, man. That's such a cool,
it's so
cool
clever.
Detail.
It's just it's just a clever little thing, right? But yeah, like I could picture them at some point like doing like a Saquon T-shirt where like you've got the silhouette of the silhouette of the reverse huddle, but then you still like in clear view is the cleats. The LeBron cleats, and it's like a Saquon LeBron collaboration or something like that, where like logos are like joined together or something like that. But yeah, I just think it's a huge moment. So, and I think that's gonna
agree,
and it's gonna bode well for LeBron. I think it's gonna bode well for LeBron really in the long term.
Yeah,
it's like people are gonna be more interested like in the LeBron 4 cleats, and maybe that builds more interest to LeBron 4s in general. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if kids from this point on be like, oh, I want to get LeBron 4 cleats now.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so good episode of Too Hard to Pass, Jacques. We are episode 12, but definitely good times and everything. Yes, nicely done. Let me see. I just wanted to.
For those out there listening, make sure you leave us a review. Make sure you share. And if you're not watching this, and if you're just doing it via as a podcast, we are on YouTube as well, so you can check it out as well. It's on the Hard Pass channel. Post every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, so you can actually see the show as well and look at these beautiful faces that you haven't been looking at, that you've just been listening to. Anyway. With that being said, I am Jacques Slade. You can find me at Cousteau, Kustoo, all over the internet. And Juan?
Yes, I am Easyville at Easyville, EZYVILLE. Really post on Instagram and trying to get on like those other like social medias like the Mastodons, your Blue Skies, and all that stuff. And then, for mailbag questions, send it over to toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. That is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. Maybe next week or a couple of weeks from now we do like a mailbag episode, because it's starting to get there. We might have enough now to actually maybe do like a mailbag episode at some point, Jock. So keep sending those questions. And of course,
that's exciting.
And of course, if you want to leave the questions in the comments, you can also do that too. So leave a comment. And of course, we're also on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that stuff. Leave those 5-star reviews. 5 stars only, really. I mean, we won't really take anything else. I don't even think you're allowed to leave anything that's not a 5-star review. So 5 stars, people. 5 stars. Anyways, thank you again for listening. And yeah, this has been episode 12 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast, and we are out. Peace. Peace.
Wow. Wow.